Welcome to TrekTrav. I am, of course, Trav, and we're here for Season 1, Episode 2, Broken Bow, Part 2 of Star Trek Enterprise. Make sure to subscribe, like, and comment, and let's get into an episode recap before we discuss the episode. So Archer and Co are locked up, and we're introduced to Saren, a Suliban female. I'm pretty sure is the actress from Night of the Living Dead 3. She questions about Klang and then weirdly, almost stupidly starts kissing Archer. Why? Sex appeal or an easy way to get older Trekkies on the horn? Saren turns out to be a defector from the Suliban, and we learn that Klang is taking a message about the Suliban and to tell the Klingons that they're trying to destabilize the Empire. And their orders come from the future. Once the exposition has occurred, Archer and Surin are attacked by the actual bad Suliban and must fight their way up to the shuttle pod. It's an disturbingly fast elevator ride to the top, and Saren has been murdered. They are confused as of their location, trying to contact Reed to pick them up. Conveniently, they weren't captured. They went the wrong way and suddenly under fire again. Oh, and conveniently, T'Pol found the shuttle. There's a cool bit where the ship flies overhead and blows everyone around. I don't think we've seen that in Star Trek before. On the race back, Archer is shot and loses consciousness in the shuttle pod, and they leave on a shot of T'Pol, who's now in command, and what will she do? I imagine an ad break went right here. They escape by the skin of their teeth and head back to Enterprise. It's flashback time for Archer and his dad flying a model. You can't be afraid of the wind. Learn to trust it. And we see T'Pol standing on the beach, mysterious. Then we're given the most uncomfortable scene in the whole pilot. Uncomfortable or slightly erotic. While I'm not averse to a decon chamber, it makes a way mission seem a bit more real. This one seems very gratuitously focused on T'Pol's body and rubbing oil on it. As a gay man, I want either no weird sexual overtones, or I want to see Colin Trenier equally represented in the oil rubbing. Colin Trenier is a handsome man. They argue about how to continue the mission, Trip showing his knowledge of the captain's motivation and T'Pol making her decision to hunt the Suliban. Phlox puts like a starfish creature on Archer's leg to heal it from where he was shot. I don't know why he got unconscious from a leg shot. It's a nice change from just like the Healy thing from the other Star Trek shows. Archer initially believes that they're going back to Earth, but then is informed that T'Pol actually worked out how to track the Suliban and made the decision to continue their mission. Then we get Blue Pajama Bacula, Archer, and very clearly getting to the point of making Enterprise a little bit more sexier than the rest of the TNG era. Porthos, we are introduced to the Captain's Beagle, and to be honest, the true star of Star Trek Enterprise. They arrive at a gas giant that the Suliban vessel arrived at because they're tracking it, and they work out by the decay rates of the trail that multiple ships enter the gas giant's atmosphere. Ignore the motorbike. Silic is talking to future guy, but not really saying anything. He doesn't know anything because he doesn't know what Archer's doing, what Archer knows, what he doesn't know. It's an interesting point of which it's like, this is just here to put future guy in it. We're introduced to kind of the Beehive space station, which is called the Helix. All of the little Suliban ships are connected into one big ship. It's actually a really, really cool looking space station, very reminiscent of the Earth one, but different. They're attacked and they take refuge in the upper atmosphere. Hoshi finds out from scans that Klang's aboard, because she's definitely not Suliban. They mention the transporter, but they're worried it'll turn him inside out. And I really, really love that notion of the transporter being a bit scary. They use the grappler to catch the Suliban ship, which the grappler is cool. Travis teaches Trip how to fly it. T'Pol tries to talk Archer and Trip out of going aboard the Suliban Helix and just go. We get the new phase pistols. It honestly seems like they wanted things to seem less advanced by just making the names longer, because they're just a phaser. I do enjoy how they use smaller craft to get from place to place. It adds a bit more tension on the journey than just beaming in and out of places. The Helix itself is lit with a neon early 2000s glow, using what I have to believe some set pieces reused from Star Trek Insurrection. The Enterprise is being bombarded by shockwaves from the Suliban ships, and it's like a weird sonar detecting thing. Archer and Trip find Clang, release him. He attacks Trip before Archer pulls a gun. Clang screams and yells on his way through the ship, which pisses off Archer. They have a magnetic unlock thing that they set up and deploy, and then the whole station starts to split apart. Trip and Clang get on the ship, but Archer is stuck. It's a really cool shot of all the smaller ships disconnecting, which I found it really, it just looked really good, especially for the time. Archer is wandering around, and we know what this means. It means exposition with Silic. The Enterprise locates Trip and Clang by Hoshi ear, and they are located. T'Pol thanks Hoshi. There's a sweet little moment of acknowledgement between the two that T'Pol kind of accepts her as kind of an equal. It's a nice little moment. Archer sees some odd signals on his tricorder and follows them. He's entering a chamber where it's kind of like the decom, but forces him into a future echo kind of room where you see his movements before he makes the movements. It's actually a really great effect. I remember back when I first watched it being really cool. So, back on the Enterprise, Trip wants to rescue Archer. T'Pol wants to return Clang. An argument ensues. We wonder who wins out. Silic taunts Archer in the future guy room. Archer asks questions. Silic weirdly comes in and out of view. Camouflage, presumably like a chameleon. It's actually a really cool effect. There's a lot of cool little things in this pilot. Trip sets up the transporter, and T'Pol retells us the issues. Because the transporter is dangerous. He might come back inside out. Silic wants Archer to leave. He opens a door for him, literally. Archer tries to get more information. The temporal Cold War is brought up, and Silic attacks Archer, taking his gun. Archer sees it fire before it actually fires, and gets out of the way, and the resulting incursion on the wall throws Silic over. Silic talks about the virtues of genetic engineering. Archer makes it back to that containment room, and Silic follows. A classic TNG era fistfight occurs where there's low effort but maximum cuts. Enterprise approaches the Helix. We get some more Silic Elastic Man, and then first use of the transporter in Enterprise. Archer's face by far is the funniest thing in this moment. Just that fear of, oh my god, what the hell just happened? Enterprise zooms off, and suddenly we're on Kronos. Clang is presented to the Klingons. They look at the information on his DNA. Archer and the crew leave, knowing they've helped, but the Klingons do not thank them. They're not very receptive to the help. On completing the first mission, Archer talks to Trip and T'Pol. Starfleet is happy with what they've done, and they've been ordered to continue their mission to explore strange new worlds and seek out new civilizations. When Trip leaves, Archer messages T'Pol that he needs to let go of his distaste for the Vulcans from the past, and offers her a role as science officer, Spock's position in the original series. The final scene is a shot of model flying. A young Archer and his dad look off to the sunset. This Enterprise Broken Bow pilot was originally a two-parter. It was watched by 16 million people, the first in its time slot. And back in the day, 16 million now is amazing. It's set up as a breath of fresh air for Star Trek. Very different and yet familiar. And these two episodes as a whole are just a really strong addition to the Star Trek universe. So we have Scott Bakula as Captain Archer, who plays it okay. He's not my favourite captain, but he plays the character sort of kind and passionate, kind of a mixture between Kirk and Picard. T'Pol by Jolene Blalock plays a Vulcan really well, considering she had very little acting training. Connor Trenier as Trip is a standout. He is funny, charismatic, interesting, intelligent. Reed, Hoshi, and Travis are there. We had a lot less of them in this episode. It's very Trip, T'Pol, and Archer focused. Flock's the same. He sort of just pops up in little bits. It's overall one of the better pilots of that era of TV, probably second only to Emissary of Deep Space Nine. It's basically introducing and setting up an entire new setting for a Star Trek series. We had 3 series in the 24th century. This one's in the 22nd. We've got a new captain, a new crew, but we get a familiar dynamic. A lot of things are stressed as being new, particularly the transporter, of which is just like they are not comfortable with using. But to be honest, I really enjoyed them using the shuttle pod or using the little ships to get here and there, making the journey and the adventure a bit more treacherous. The only fallback I see from this is it's still very, very tonally familiar to Voyager. It's still a bit slow. And still a lot of exposition. Like if you're a new fan coming into this, like the first episode or first half, hands down, you can sort of go, oh, I can get into this. The second half is very, I don't know how to speak. It slows right down to make it to that, I'm gathering 90-minute episode mark. The NX-01 itself is a fantastic ship. I've got the, if you can see my face now, got the Mirror Universe NX-01 right here. As you can see, it looks like the Akira from underneath. It's a cool looking ship. I don't think I can hear the speaker trying. But otherwise, we're introduced to some great things. And as we go through season 1, we'll be introduced to some more great things, especially the first 6 episodes. So make sure to come back to TrekTrav every Tuesday for your Star Trek Enterprise reviews, Thursday for Star Trek Lower Decks, and Sunday for Earth Final Conflict, which will be coming back this week. I've been TrekTrav. Thank you for watching.